Just because something happens doesn't give it permission to live on the page of your memoir. Or, as Marion Roach Smith says in her book, The Memoir Project, just because something happens doesn't make it interesting. So in this video, we're going to unpack rule number 3 of the 3 rules of memoir, according to Marion Roach Smith. When we start pulling out rules about memoir, we're actually going to find that they overlap. You're going to talk about this rule and find you're actually talking about rule number 3 at the same time. Or you start talking about rule number 3 and you find it overlaps with rule number 2. And that's what we're going to find today too when we talk about just because something happens doesn't make it interesting. It's going to touch on rule number 2, where every scene, every story, every happening in your book has to have a purpose that drives one single story forward. And the reasons for that are A, momentum, B, focus, and C, the reader. And that's where rule number 3 comes in. The focus for rule number 3 is actually our reader. In rule number 2, we learned about the purge on the page, and that's really about us finding the focus and the one story of our memoir. We now need to shift from us and our purge on the page, or the stories we want to tell, the things that we think are actually interesting, to what is our story about and how does this inform, entertain, or educate the reader. You've heard me discuss this in other videos as well. The purpose of writing a memoir is not a collection of autobiographical moments, but of interest to the reader, and that's really the target audience, the person that we're writing for. Marion Roach Smith describes reading as signing up to take a walk with the writer. So if someone's going to take a walk with you as the writer, they do not want to come along and hear a monologue of your life. They want to come along, hear interesting aspects of your life, but really they want to know what happened in your life, how things happened in your life, what actually caused them to happen in your life, so that they can learn about their lives as well. So to unpack that statement a little further, it's not enough to know that something happened in your life or how it happened in your life. So for example, it's not enough to know you discovered your wife's infidelity and how you discovered it when you decided one day at 3 p.m. in the afternoon to nip into the local pub for a pint. You were supposed to be at work, you thought your wife was at home or caring for the kids or running around at the office. But what you didn't expect was to find her sitting in a booth holding hands with somebody else. That was how you discovered your wife's infidelity. It has interest, it has value in telling your story, but it's not enough to stop there. We need to go deeper with our pen. We need to prod into those areas of why it happened. How did it come to be that this situation happened at all? And we can only do that when we're curious about our lives, when we're curious about our story, when we do what Brené Brown calls walking into our story. If we're honest and telling the truth in our memoir writing, rule number 1, don't forget to watch it, we're going to find that with prodding with our pen, elements of our story we weren't expecting. We're going to find that we actually, in all likelihood, probably, yes, I would even say definitely participated in the demise of our marriage. It may not have seemed it at the time. We may have seen ourselves as the innocent, but in prodding with our pen, in going deeper into why this happened, how it came to happen at all, we will, in all likelihood, unearth things we were not expecting. And that is what is of interest to your story and to the reader. That is where your truth element comes in. And that's what we're looking for when we, as readers, sign up to take a walk with you, the writer. Now you may say, but I have a whole collection of stories I really want to document. I want to put them down, and I do want to put them in a book. Well, be selective. They can't necessarily go in this book. But you can have a collection of all the entries you've ever wanted to write down, all the memories you've ever wanted to document, or they may just come spilling out onto the page as you write, and keep them as a collection for future reference. You never know when later you may need one of those stories to illustrate a point, or you write a second memoir, or you go on to write other pieces and you go into writing fiction, but some of these stories can still come to play. They're not wasted. They just don't have permission to live on the page of this memoir. And in order to know which ones live on the page and which ones don't, it's important to know the premise of your memoir. So don't forget to look down below in the description to click on the link to my free video course where I walk you through how to determine the premise of your memoir. And it will help you to stay focused on writing your memoir and to follow through on these 3 rules of memoir. If you're interested in Marion Roach Smith's book as well, which I do recommend, the link is down below in the description too. So do take a look. Don't forget to get that free course and keep writing, stay focused, and be selective about which happenings end up on the pages of your memoir and why. I'll see you in my next video as we unpack writing our memoirs. I'll see you next time.